The ability to speak might not make you intelligent, but we're going to try to prove otherwise. This is the Clashing Sabers podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon, and I'm here with my co-host. He's the man best known for cutting Qui-Gon Jinn's Padawan braid. It's
Davor.
Davor. How are we doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm quite good. I'm excited to be talking with you here tonight on this episode, which we're going to be talking about mentorship as mutual growth on this particular episode of Clashing Sabers. For those of you who have been playing along at home, I am working on a Star Wars book that I'm self-publishing that looks at Star Wars ideologies and philosophies and how we can apply them to our everyday life, and it's going to be called The Wayseeker's Path, and we're going through each of the subjects in there and just having conversations about it and talking about what we think about it, just kind of characters, themes, topics, whatever direction it goes. So we're going to be looking again at mentorship tonight. So I do actually have some big news on that front of the book, Davor.
Go on.
I have finished writing the book. I know. I've written a whole book.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm excited. I am I'm currently in the editing process, so working on that, and then we're gonna release it this holiday season. So Mark's working on the artwork, guys, is insane. It's gonna be so good. It's up there with Drew Struzan type stuff as far as I'm concerned. Just amazing art that Mark is doing. So really looking forward to that. So of course, stay tuned here. We'll keep you posted on all of that stuff as the book releases and pre-orders are available and stuff like that. So Davor, dude, I feel like we always jump into things, but just how have you been lately? Like, how's life?
Life is good. It's been sort of. I feel like the summer has been going by very fast.
Yeah.
But it's been a good summer. We've had, for those like me who've been into it, we've had the World Cup for about a month, and that's been a lot of fun. So yeah, having a good time.
Good. Yeah, it's been a good summer. I haven't really gotten into the World Cup, but there's been plenty of summer TV watching going on for sure. It's kind of in the Star Wars vein a little bit, but I just finished season 2 of the live action Avatar Netflix series.
Nice.
So enjoying that. But we're not here to talk about that stuff. We're here to talk about Star Wars. So of course, Avatar is connected because of Dave Filoni. But I want to know, Davor, what have you been Star Warsing lately?
Well, I just finished something that is actually related to tonight's topic, connected to the theme that we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
That's right. I have read Legacy.
Oh, I'm reading it right now.
I have read Legacy. I enjoyed it. It's really good. I think probably like if I'm going to borrow from Don't Burn the Sacred Text and do the star rating, I think I would give it solidly a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it.
I like it so far. I am I think 3 or 4 chapters in, right where kind of the adventure is about to start. So it's a great book. It's very well written, I have to say.
Yes.
Just the prose and everything like that, I think is really good. So I'm excited to keep exploring it. So where would it fit like in the most recent ones? Like, I know you really loved Low Red Moon. You loved Master of Evil, all of those things. Does it fit in with those? Keeping up we're getting good Star Wars books for you? I know you rated it a 4 out of 5, but
Yeah, I would say so. Like if we were doing this, like in if you were putting Star Wars books into the tier list, I think it's solidly A tier book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. It's not quite S tier for me. Like we were talking last time about all these all the kind of Master and Apprentice books like Brotherhood, like Master and Apprentice. I think like those I would put in the S tier. I think this one is maybe just one notch below it, but I mean, A tier still ain't bad.
A tier is not bad at all.
No, not at all.
I'll take that. I kind of thought so. I just finished The Last Order,
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, this is going to be an A tier, B tier book for me.
No.
Nah. No, it didn't do it for me, man. I
Mm.
really, um, I
You're
won't,
going
I won't.
strong there for a minute.
It was going strong for a minute, and then I felt, and we'll get more into this on Don't Burn the Sacred Text. I felt like it fell kind of flat on its face at the end, pretty hard. Um, so
I think,
kind of let down there.
yeah, I think for me, the in terms of the structure from like going to like the present to the past doesn't work. I think the present day story I don't think is strong enough. And I think the book would have
No,
been I think the book would have been a lot stronger if they just ditched all that and it was all in the past.
yeah, and I kind of thought, we get to a certain. I'm trying to be spoiler free, but like
Mm-hmm.
in Jana's story, we get to that certain point, right? And I thought we were going to get to that certain point in Finn's story, and they were going to kind of parallel each other, and we didn't. And so it all just felt kind of weird at the end, and it felt. Here's what I'll say about the book that is not spoilery, but is a critique. I really felt like the author wanted to write a Jana book and then was
Mm-hmm.
told you have to include Finn somehow.
Mm.
Because not only do you spend the majority of the book with Jana and her crew, which is spectacular, but
Yeah.
exactly what you said, the stuff in the present timeline just didn't work very well, which makes the ending really fall flat on its face. So I was disappointed in there. I don't think I would drop it to like F tier, but it's C or D for sure.
Mm.
Um, but I'm really looking forward to getting into Legacy, and then we have Eyes Like Stars coming out and all of that
Yep.
stuff. So we're in. I don't know. I felt like there was a period where maybe it was just because the High Republic was coming out where we weren't getting as many good installments in like the one-off books. You had
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a Brotherhood here and Inquisitor Rise of the Red Blade there, but we got that terrible Mace. I'm looking over at my shelf. We got that terrible Mace Windu book that I just absolutely despise. We were getting a lot of Thrawn stuff, and it feels good to be back in just like getting the one-off books like we did at the beginning of the Disney acquisition, with A New Dawn and Tarkin and Lords of the Sith, and just like absolute banger after banger. Because of course, like, we critique on here, but and so we do look at like what are some of the faults of things and stuff like that. But really, they've been really good books of late.
Yeah.
Low Red Moon, I enjoyed. Master of Evil, I enjoyed. Legacy, I'm enjoying. So like, I don't think they have hit anything like insanely high, right? Lately they haven't
Mm-hmm.
had a Master and Apprentice or a Brotherhood or something like that. But they're putting out solid additions to the Star Wars canon, and it feels like stuff that actually matters, which I know is a big complaint that people have had. They told this story about Darth Vader. They told this important story about Jana in particular. Now they're telling an important story about Leia and Rey. So I'm hoping we're getting those stories that matter in the books a lot more now.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Like it has been as fun as the High Republic was for the 4 or 5 years that we had
Yeah,
it,
something like that.
something like that. It has been nice to kind of get back to this period where we're sort of hopping around the timeline. We're with different characters, we're getting different kinds of stories. We're
Yeah.
getting some of the like with Legacy, we're getting some of those stories that we've been wanting for a really long time. So yeah, it's good.
And I wonder too, like, is this a healthier model? Like, of course, we know the success of the High Republic, right?
Yeah.
But that's for us. That's for the hardcore fans. The High Republic, I don't feel like is a book that somebody's going to go to Barnes and Noble and be like, yeah, I'll give Star Wars a try, and then start with the High Republic.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like, oh, I see Leia and Rey and Kylo Ren on the cover. I know them. I'll give that a try. Oh, I see Darth Vader on the cover. I'll give that a try. I see Jana and Finn on the cover. I'll give that a try. So maybe that's a model they're shifting to a little bit, of putting more stories out like that have these important characters at the fore, which I'm not against. Like, I've been satisfied with what they've done with the books. I've enjoyed them. I don't mind getting, you know, Bad Batch books or ISCAP books or whatever, like all these different characters that maybe aren't, recognizable to everybody, but I totally get the desire for that. And so I'm excited if that's kind of the direction they're going. And I really hope at some point, if they don't tell it in animation, tell the dang Luke story in books. We need it, guys. Like, we've got to do, at some point, we have to tell the Luke Skywalker lead up to Ben's fall story.
Yes.
Like,
100%.
You got to tell it. Would
100%.
you rather that be a High Republic style series, or would you rather that be in animation? Let's just say live action is off the table.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to recast. What would you prefer?
Right. Ooh, that's a good question. I think maybe I would like to see the story on screen.
Yeah.
I think it could be really good on screen.
Yeah. There's so much potential in each medium, like the action adventure of it all would be really good in animation, but I don't know, the psychology and the Luke thinking about it and the getting Jedi text and stuff like that. Like, that's one thing I've liked so far about Legacy, and I loved about like Master and Apprentice and stuff, is like they're giving you Jedi texts.
Yes.
Like in Legacy, I won't, it's just not really a spoiler because it's literally in the first 3 chapters, but you get like some things out of the Jedi text that Rey took from Octo. And so stuff like that is in a book, I don't know, that gets me excited. Give me a 9-book series of Luke, Jedi adventures. I'm here for it. It would sell some books. I don't know if it would get people, push people to Disney Plus like they want, but it would sell some damn books.
Yeah, I think, again, not to get too spoilery on Legacy or to give up anything, like there is some really interesting like sort of Jedi history stuff, like arcane stuff.
Let's go.
That is really cool. That's just making me like, oh, there are certain eras of Star Wars I wish we could get into more. Like I'm yearning to find things out from the deep past of the Jedi.
Yeah, and there was the Mangold movie kind of made us think we were going to get that, and then it wasn't to be. So they at least have thought about, and then there's the new Old Republic edition that's coming out. So they're like thinking about going back there, but man, I think you've seen, again, the High Republic is such a model, I think, for the potential of what they could do, that I really wish they would lean more into that. And maybe they are, maybe they just haven't announced it yet. It's very recent after the ending of the High Republic. We're like, what, a year out from that, something like that, maybe less. So we have time, but I don't know, man. I feel like they've kind of got the book side of things figured out.
I agree. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, have you been Star Warsing anything else of late?
Not really. Did watch the trailer for Ninth Jedi that came out last week at the time that we're recording this.
And how excited are we for that?
I'm looking forward to it. Looks really good.
Do you think so? Are they going to release? Have they announced if they're going to release it all at once or if they're going to do it in parts?
My impression is that it's all dropping at once.
Okay. I kind of hope so with that, just because Visions is not as big of a property. So I feel like if you drop it all at once, you give it this moment in time. Maul's going to drive people to the screen for, weeks at a time.
Yeah.
The Ninth Jedi might not. But if you go, oh, here's how many episodes is it going to be? Have they said?
I don't even know that off the top of my head.
I can't remember if they've even announced it. But like, let's say it's 6 episodes. Like, here's your 6 episodes. Like, give it its moment in time on social media, on Disney Plus, put it on the banner, all of that stuff. I think it could be really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. Speaking of Star Wars animation, I just literally before jumping on this call, watched the finale episodes of Maul Shadow Lord again.
Nice.
Dude, they're so good.
They are. They're really, really good.
Like, they hold up too, like, it's not the exact goosebumps that you get right when you watch it the first time, but it's got a little bit of that, like, I can't believe we got to see Maul and Vader fight each other.
Yeah, it's so good.
And like, we might get more of that.
Yeah, it might happen.
So it's good stuff. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I want to go back and rewatch the whole series, but thinking about it, and thinking about the possibility of a Luke series, Luke in that animation style, would be so good. That would be great.
Absolutely.
So, all right, well, we got a little bit of mentorship in Maul, with Maul and Devin, maybe a little bit wrong mentorship, but let's talk about mentorship in Star Wars and really looking at mentorship as mutual growth, right? How does mentorship help both the student and the teacher grow? And so I want to start kind of where we start all of these conversations, which is taking the topic, which in this case is mentorship, and asking, like, when you think about mentorship and Star Wars, what comes to mind?
I think when you gave this topic and then when you sent along some of the questions and things that we would be talking about, I think my brain went right away to The Last Jedi because there's so much about mentorship and what it looks like from both the perspective of the mentor and the mentee, and sort of what it means for both of them. And you have with, I mean, particularly with Luke and Rey, like you have this whole journey that they go on as master apprentice, as mentor mentee, and I think you get to really see it from both sides in a way that, like, particularly especially in the movies, we don't always get to see in the master apprentice relationship. Obviously in other places like Rebels and things like that, like, we kind of get the dual sides. So often we're just kind of seeing things from the apprentice's point of view and less so from the master. And I think that I think that movie does such a good job of sort of exploring, like, what does it mean to be a mentor? What are some of the struggles that they go through? What is the impact? Like what does it matter? And then just getting also, obviously seeing the chain of, like, you have Luke Rey, but then you also get Yoda Luke, a little bit there too. So that's where my brain went immediately.
Well, it's interesting because the middle chapters of each of the trilogies really is a look at the mentor mentee relationship, right? Because, like, obviously, you have Empire Strikes Back with Luke and Yoda. You have everything you just talked about with Last Jedi. And it sounds weird to say that Attack of the Clones is about the mentor-mentee relationship, but it really is, because one, you've got like the beginning stuff with Obi-Wan and Anakin, but it's really them being separated and seeing how that impacts each of them, being separated before they're ready to be. And so it looks at it from a different angle. So that's really interesting to think about. And I immediately went to Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Which kind of surprised me, because not like my go-to duo. And I wrote the chapter so long ago, I'm not even sure if, how much Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan feature in the chapter. But, like, I usually go to, like, Kanan and Ezra, Luke and Yoda, Luke and Rey, Leia and Rey now. Like, these more movie-centric or more recent movie-centric stuff. And when I thought about Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, I was thinking, why are they the first one that pops in my mind? And really, it goes to the books. It goes to Master and Apprentice, and it goes to Padawan. And seeing the dynamic between them be rough for a while, and them really have the struggle of trying to figure out how this is going to work. And then you get to the end of Master and Apprentice, and you get this commitment to, hey, this might suck right now, we might struggle with this right now, but we're going to work together through this because we're committed to this process of growth. And to me, that's really what the true purpose of a mentor is helping both yourself and the mentee to grow and to change and to evolve, and to find the best version of themselves, the next version of themselves. So for you, when you think about mentors and mentees, and you're looking at Star Wars and what it says, both like what do you think about as far as the true purpose of a mentor, and if you think something is different than Star Wars, like what do you think Star Wars says?
I mean, I was just talking about The Last Jedi, and of course, I think about the Yoda line about we are what they grow beyond. That is the true burden
Mm-hmm.
of all masters. And so I think that, one of the, I think the goal, or at least I think something that Star Wars talks about in the goal of mentorship, is for the student to obviously like learn and come to the level of the master, but then also in some like to a degree to kind of move beyond the master, right? To
Mm-hmm.
learn from the master's mistakes, the master's shortcomings, right? To do things that they maybe couldn't do, didn't think about doing, all of that. So I think I think that's really what Star Wars is talking about in, I mean, particularly in that moment in The Last Jedi, but I think there are examples throughout the franchise of the idea of that the goal of mentorship is to, it's obviously to sort of like raise someone up, to train them, to make them a better person, but then also to make them not just a sort of carbon copy of yourself, of the
Mm-hmm.
master, but of something greater than the master themselves could be.
Yeah, I think that's the difference between like just a dynamic and a mentorship relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
In like a relationship dynamic and just a general like you're impacting each other, but it's kind of like there's no objective to it, like you and I, for example, we're friends. We're not in a mentor
Yes.
mentee relationship. Like do I hope I have a positive impact on you and stuff like that, like that's just being a good person, but like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not intentionally trying to be like I'm improving Davor or anything like that,
You're
right?
right. Yeah.
You're you me. But like in a mentor mentee relationship, like there is that goal and that aspiration to that, and in that I think like there is a point wherein the mentor uh fades away, and Star Wars
Mm-hmm.
shows us that, that it is the grow beyond,
Yeah.
and we see that with Obi-Wan growing beyond Qui-Gon, by I would say by the time of the original trilogy, because of course like in the Obi-Wan series he still goes to learn from Qui-Gon,
Mm-hmm.
but really we see it with Luke outgrowing Yoda and Obi-Wan, and Ray outgrowing her masters and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I think that to me is what really marks the success of a mentor mentee relationship. And the hard part about that is it can take a long time, and it's kind of like Luke in the Last Jedi. Like it's not a perfect straight line. It doesn't just
No.
go
Mm-hmm.
up, right? It's kind of like people complain about Luke goes backwards in the Last Jedi and stuff like that. And it's like no, it's life is a cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so the mentor mentee relationship is a cycle in the same way. So like when you look at Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, for example, like Obi-Wan grows and doesn't need Qui-Gon as much, and then he falls and he does need Qui-Gon again, and then he grows and he does, and it just kind of cycles through. And we even see stories with like Anakin outgrows Obi-Wan to some extent in the prequels. Like he does it the wrong
Yeah.
way, obviously, but he does outgrow him. But then you go and you look at the Brotherhood chapter in the Return of the Jedi from a certain point of view, and
Mm-hmm.
here's Anakin needing Obi-Wan again to help him,
Yeah.
integrate into the Force. So it's all secular. Am I saying that right? I'm probably saying that wrong. It's all a cycle, and
Yes.
that's the impact, or that's the importance of mentorship, is like yes they grow beyond them, but you're
Mm-hmm.
still going to need them at the same time, which makes it a really interesting kind of relationship.
Yeah. The same way that, again, to go back to the movie, Luke needs Yoda by the end of The Last Jedi to kind of
Yeah,
remind him of like what his purpose is, and like what he still has to offer the galaxy.
yeah, for sure. No, you know I always joke with my students, I'm like, by the end of the year I want to be out of a job.
Mm-hmm.
I tell and they're like shocked by that, and I'm like, well, but you should be so good at what you do by the end of the year that you don't need me, that I'm just here making sure nobody gets hurt. And I think, great teachers have that kind of mindset of, it's not about you, right? Yoda could come back in so many different ways. He could come, he could come back and train Rey for all we know. Like, he's Yoda, it's the Force, it's all weird stuff, but he chooses to come back with Luke and just have a conversation with him about it. And I think that's really impactful. And I think it's important that Luke, even as the legend Luke Skywalker, is willing to learn. And so I guess the next question to kind of delve into is, can someone truly teach without being willing to learn in and of themselves?
No, I don't think so, because I think so much of what is involved in teaching, right? Like in these relations that we see, is about teaching it is in some ways like teaching someone how to learn, right? Like it is about fostering sort of like curiosity, asking questions, seeking answers, things like that. And I think if you yourself are not open to that, right? Like if you have the attitude of like, I already know everything I need to know, right? My way is the right way. I've figured it all out, right? Like you're not going to necessarily foster that kind of curiosity and then by extension growth in your mentee.
I hear you, and I don't fully disagree, but I do have a wondering. What about when you look at like a Palpatine and Maul situation? Because do you think Palpatine learns from Maul in any ways? Like, of course we don't have stuff, so we're theorizing here. We literally have like some flashbacks in Shadow Lord of like 10 seconds of him electrocuting Maul, and we can fill in with like Legends books and stuff like that. But I mean, Palpatine does teach Maul. He does teach Vader. But do you think Palpatine grows and learns as a result of that?
That's a good question. I mean, that sort of comes down to like the question of like, is the Sith master apprentice relationship a relationship of mentor and mentee? I don't know that it is.
That's a good point.
I think it's sort of fundamentally different from like these other examples that we've talked about of Obi-Wan, Luke, Rey, Leia, Rey, like Kanan and Ezra, all of these. Because when you think about if you think about like the Sith relationship, it is much more antagonistic, right? Like if you think about you think about the sort of the line about the rule of two, of however Bane puts it, of like the one to wield power and the other to crave it, or something, right?
Yeah,
right. Like there's an antagonism there of like, one has something and the other wants the thing that the first one has, right? Like,
yeah,
it's very different from this like process of like raising someone up and like mutual growth and all of that. It's much more sort of like resentment and greed and possessiveness. And then ultimately the idea is, well, the apprentice is going to off the master at some point and become the new master. So like the idea is, well, like one person in this party is done at a certain point.
Well, and I think that's an important nuance, because like, we talked about, that is the burden, they grow beyond, that is the burden of all masters. That happens with the Sith, right? Like, and it happens, and like you said, they off the master. And so it's not, I think mentorship is not simply like one outgrows the other. It's not simply a student-teacher relationship, and I think that's really important. It comes down to the intention of both parties and the willingness of both parties to learn, right? And to learn almost for the sake of learning, because if you look at like the Sith dynamic, the apprentice is learning to overcome, to accomplish this goal of being powerful enough to defeat the master. And so there's not this altruism to it. And I think that that's important, is that like Sure, the Jedi have goals, they have missions that they're trying to accomplish, but really a good Jedi to me at the heart should like kind of learn about the Force and the Jedi way for the sake of it, as much as trying to grow. So do you think that's important as far as like defining a mentorship relationship?
Yeah, I think so. Because if you go back to what kickstarted this whole side of the conversation, when you use sort of the Palpatine Maul example, right? Like Palpatine is not really all that committed to the sort of rule of two dynamic. I mean, he's committed to the like
Mm,
there can only be two, but like he's not really right. Like he's not for the apprentice offs the master part, right? Like his
yeah,
commitment to the rule of two ends right before you get to that point, right? So if
yeah.
you think about it, like in all of these cases, the apprentices that he has are just sort of instruments that he's sharpening for him to use for one purpose or another, right? Whether it's Maul as this kind of weapon to sort of announce the Sith's return, or it's Dooku to, start the Clone Wars and all that, whether it's Anakin to, get across the finish line with Order 66 and all of that. Right, there's no notion of like necessarily the apprentice growing beyond the master or becoming more powerful. The
Mm,
idea is always like he is going to be at the top.
yeah, yeah, and there's no room to go beyond that. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's a really important point. Whereas like, and what's interesting is when you look at all of those apprentices, like he still manipulates them into believing that that's possible,
Yeah.
right? Which is where the altruism of it comes in, um, where it's like it it's not about the power of the mentor. It's not about the power
Mm-hmm.
of the master. It's about empowering the student. And I think that is really kind of the difference between there is like empowering the student also empowers the master. And so in that relationship, you get a level of growth, right?
Yeah.
For both parties. And so I think everybody has kind of experienced this, especially in this world of information that we live in. There's a big difference between like learning and growing on your own and how far you
Mm-hmm.
can get doing that and learning and growing with a mentor.
Yeah.
Like you can, for example, like just to give a different dynamic, like you could be working on your mental and emotional health and reading books and meditating and journaling and doing all of these things and stuff like that. But then you get a therapist and it takes it to another level, right?
Yeah.
So, why do you think mentorship, or excuse me, growth requires a relationship like that? What is it about the relationship that leads to such exponential success and growth?
I think there is the element of, of another perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because like you can have obviously, something that's, in common, something that's in common between like a relationship that you have with a person and let's say like something that you read in a book is that like for like in both cases from the perspective of let's say you the learner, right? Like you can gain the benefit of new perspective, like new, like right, you can learn things whether it's something that someone has written down or like you're having a conversation with somebody. But like the benefit of the sort of second approach of like the conversation of the relationship with somebody is like there is that sort of two-way street of like somebody can actually like offer their point of view in terms of like looking at your situation, right, where you might be able to come to somebody and say like, okay, I'm going through this, or like this is happening, I'm not sure what to do, or what have you, and like they can actually respond back to you directly based on like what you're saying in your specific problem, right? They can offer that sort of a little bit of like if not like an objective point of view, then at least like something a little bit removed from your own perspective.
Yeah, it kind of
And
gets rid of that veil for sure.
yeah, there's that. And then there's just that sort of that element again through that relationship of, being pushed and being challenged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of like having that other person who can bring things up or maybe say things or point things out and maybe force you to kind of face things or deal with things that maybe if you were just on your own, you might want to push off or sweep under the rug or something like that.
Yeah, which I think that last point in particular really hits with like Obi-Wan and Anakin versus like Yoda and Luke. Is Obi-Wan and Anakin get stuck in that like Anakin doesn't want to see his own flaws part of things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they never get past that. And that's why to some extent like there can be arguments made that like there is some success that happens in the relationship because they both grow and stuff, but like ultimately it ends with, for all intents and purposes, Anakin becoming Darth Vader, so not great.
Yeah.
Versus like where Luke goes, where he starts still in this stubborn headspace, but he's able to break out of that and stuff like that. And so when you compare and contrast those, it kind of looks like that mindset of being willing to be vulnerable, but also like being able to hear when somebody pushes you in those new directions is really important. And I kind of hear that
Mm-hmm.
in what you're saying a little bit. So would you say like that's the marker of a successful mentor mentee relationship, is that ability to be vulnerable, but also like push beyond your comfort zone?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree that those are definitely parts of it. I think that vulnerability is really important. I think that yeah, sort of that push, right, to really sort of challenge you and challenge like the views you have or the way that you're doing things, your preconceived notions is really important. I think also that sort of like the sort of like trust and honesty I think is really important, because like when you look at, you were just talking about the Obi-Wan Anakin dynamic, like you see even like well before the Darth Vader of it all, right? You go to episode 2 where you get to see a lot of that dynamic, and you see there's so much like resentment under there. Like you think about Anakin after the Tusken Raiders, about like he's jealous, he's holding me back. Like Anakin has so much like distrust of like, does Obi-Wan really have my interests at heart, or is he like trying to keep me from being as strong as I possibly can be? Right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of that stuff like underneath the surface that's happening, and then of course once you
that's
get
just
into the
straight up
Clone
on the
Wars,
surface. He just
yeah,
Anakin
yeah,
just puts
that's
it on there. It's on the surface.
yeah, exactly. But then you get into the Clone Wars period, and obviously there's the element of Anakin and Padme having this secret relationship, and Anakin is not open about it, and Obi-Wan, as as the show pretty much established, like he pretty much knows, that something is
Yeah,
going on, but he doesn't really, you know, call him out or confront him or anything. So they're never honest with each other about that situation. And that obviously has all sorts of escalating domino effect problems. So yeah, I think that's important too. That sort of openness and that communication and that honesty.
yeah. I love. I you were saying that, and I was like, oh, I got to talk to him about this honesty thing, because like I think that is the key to a successful mentor mentee relationship, is honesty, and like the extent to which they can be honest with each other, because without that none of it works, right? Like when you go back to like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, like you look at Padawan, they're not being honest with each other. You look at Master
Mm-hmm.
and Apprentice, they're not being honest with each other. And once they finally break through and stop like thinking, oh, am I going to be judged, or what's their perspective going to be? You look at Qui-Gon not telling Obi-Wan that he's been elected to the Jedi Council or been nominated for the Jedi Council and stuff like that. Like it violates that. There's an inherent trust agreement in any of those relationships, right? And maybe going back to what we were talking about, like contrasting the Sith earlier, like that's part of it, is there's not that honesty and trust there
Yeah.
where it's present in a Jedi relationship. And it doesn't even have to be in a Jedi relationship. Like I know we've been talking a lot about Jedi and Sith here, but to be clear, like this is Leia and Poe. This is you
Mm-hmm.
know
Yeah.
um Han, even Han and Luke to some extent, like help each other. Um, so it can be in any kind of relationship. It doesn't have to be in just a Jedi relationship. Hera and Sabine is a great example
Yeah.
of that. So I guess that honesty is really the foundational element of it all, and when that gets lost, trust gets lost. And I think maybe the one of the bigger flaws of Anakin's that we don't really talk about is that he violates that agreement of honesty with your mentor, because
Mm-hmm.
he hides things, not just Padme but many things
Yeah.
across Clone Wars from Obi-Wan, and that becomes a big problem. And then of course, he puts his trust in Palpatine and stuff like that, and that's a whole different thing. So um in when you look at it, like with honesty being the foundation of like getting a successful outcome, like if you had to give like a growth target or a measure, you said this is the thing that defines success for a mentorship, like by the time it ends, would it be, as we were talking about earlier, that the mentee grows beyond them and doesn't need them anymore? Or would it be something else that, comes to mind?
I think that's definitely a key part, is that sort of the we are what they grow beyond of it all. I think that's definitely part of it. I do think, I think there's an element of, yeah, sort of equipping equipping the mentee with both the sort of knowledge and the skills to kind of go out into the world and start to kind of figure things out for themselves, and like sort of think for themselves. There's sort of that kind of that sort of element of independence, because again, like to sort of like contrast it with the with the Sith example, there is that, like, for the for the Vaders, for the Mauls, there is that sort of that forever kind of dependence, right? Like
Yeah.
Vader is always the apprentice to the master, right? He's never his own person. He's never free from Palpatine's sort of domination and control. Whereas the idea is like, okay, the to get to to get the mentee to the point where they can sort of stand on their own metaphorical 2 feet, right?
Hmm.
And but yeah, I think that is important. I think potentially even giving equipping them to themselves become a mentor at some
Yeah.
point down the road, sort of like passing on that knowledge there is really important. I think you see that, of course, in Star Wars, in terms of the sort of like the chain of the apprentices who become the masters, who then raise up the next masters, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of in sports they would call it a coaching tree, right? Like all the
Mm-hmm.
coaches that go around and everything like that. So that's kind of what you get. I think that's part of it. I also think something that's really important, and maybe Star Wars doesn't touch on this a ton just because it kind of is supposed to be timeless, but equipping the student, the mentee, for the future that they're going to live in, I think is
Mm-hmm.
really important, and there are some universal foundational truths, and I think that's what Star Wars does really well, is like teach those foundational truths. But you know, I question whether, like, did Yoda equipped Luke to be a Jedi Knight, but like, did he equip him to be a Jedi Master? Like, did he build him to that future that he was going to live in? I think that's an important aspect of success in that relationship too. Um, but I think really just the the mentor becomes better by learning more about themselves. And I think the mentee does that as well. But the mentee's job, I see it as, is to go and make the world a little better. Like the way I envision things, like the mentor's already gone through their journey. They've already had their positive impact on the world. And now they're expanding that on into the student. And so when you think about that and you think about Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
which mentor and which mentee do you think were most successful in their jobs? And it doesn't have to be like a mentor mentee that work together. Like it doesn't have to be Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan together. But like, which mentor do you think is the best in Star Wars and most successful? And which mentee do you think is the best and most successful?
I think I'm going to have to go with the pair that's right over your head if you're watching this in the video form. I think I'm going to have to go with
me
Kanan
and
and
Ashley
Ezra.
Eckstein. Yeah, me and Ashley Eckstein. No. Kanan and Ezra for sure.
I think I'm going to have to go with Kanan and Ezra. I think because if you look at their dynamic, I think as a sort of mentor-mentee relationship, like I think they're so great because I think you get to see the sort of positive influence that they both have on each other. I mean, for in the sort of in the direction of like Kanan to Ezra, I think it's very obvious to see in terms of Kanan helping Ezra sort of learn about the ways of the Force and becoming a Jedi and getting in his abilities, but then also like in deeper ways in terms of like getting Ezra to sort of think beyond himself, right? And like what impact he can have on the galaxy. Like you think about the sort of after the world between worlds, right? The idea of like the final lesson from Kanan, right? Being about like what he could do in order to save Lothal. So I think like he really sort of Kanan is able to open up Ezra's eyes in terms of like the possibilities and like the impact that he can have. But then over the course of the show, I think Ezra has this very important impact on Kanan because like Kanan obviously in the was A New Dawn, like he there goes from this journey of like he's post Order 66, he's kind of just kind of bouncing around the galaxy with no clear purpose, and then he meets Hera and he starts getting purpose. But then even when you find him at the beginning of season 1 of Rebels, like there's still a lot of doubt and uncertainty in Kanan, and obviously a lot of that comes from Order 66, and he never got that full Jedi education. Right, there's always the sort of like there's always the joke about Kanan as sort of like the B student, like in Star Wars of like he got most of the lessons, but he doesn't have all of it kind of figured out, and he's like trying to kind of piece together the bits that he doesn't really know or that he never really got. But I think as that relationship grows, and obviously they have their ups and downs, right? You get to the beginning of season 3 and both of them are in really difficult places, between Kanan struggling with his blindness and Ezra having the holocron and sort of the temptation of the dark side and all of that. But I think as they sort of go through that relationship, I think Kanan's own confidence in himself and his own abilities grows. Like you get to obviously the climax with Jedi Knight. Like I don't know that season 1 Kanan does that right necessarily,
for
right?
sure.
I think he has to go through the journey, and particularly has to go through the journey with Ezra and seeing like just what he himself is really capable of to get to that point where like he could make that sacrifice play by the time of season 4.
Yeah, for sure. And you get hints of that in like Spark of Rebellion when he does the whole I can't remember what the number is, but the plan whatever it is, and then he pulls out his lightsaber and is like, I'm gonna let him all in on the secret. Like you get hints of like he'll rush into danger for the people that he cares about, but like to actually like it's very different to like rush into danger than it is to stand your ground and give your life for that. Like he's walking in season 1 in knowing like he's about to boss everybody out, whereas like in Jedi Knight, he's like, I'm not strong enough to do this, and I have to be okay with that. So, man, you kind of stole a really good answer. So for the sake of not taking Kanan, I will say the best master or mentor in Star Wars is Qui-Gon Jinn. And the best student is, and this is not me, this is actually would be my actual answer whether I was her biggest fan or not, but I genuinely think it's Ahsoka. I think Qui-Gon, because universally he has all those traits you were talking about with Kanan, where he's willing to look at himself, he's willing to be vulnerable, he's willing to see through the things that he struggles with. He realizes when he makes mistakes. He doesn't view himself as perfect, but he also knows what he has to offer, and he offers that freely. And he always leads with things that, like, if you guys have been through this series with us, I've talked about this a lot, just like he leads with hope, love, and empathy. And I think that's really, really important in a mentor role. And you can look at the things that he says. Your focus determines your reality. Feel, don't think, trust your instincts. All of those things that we see in episode 1. We see things in Clone Wars with him being a mentor for Yoda as Yoda goes on his journey. So we don't have a ton of Qui-Gon content, but everything that we do shows him as a premium mentor. And for Ahsoka, I think the reason she would be the best mentee in Star Wars is because she had so many mentors and
Yeah.
she learns from them and consolidates them, right? We see, that, Obi-Wan's got Yoda and he's got Qui-Gon and all this stuff. But with Ahsoka, you've got everybody from Obi-Wan to Anakin to Padme to learning from Kanan in that interaction. Like everybody she comes in contact with, she is learning from in some way, shape, or form. And I think that makes her a really powerful student, and really is really why she is considered, with so much esteem. Is we still haven't seen her as a great mentor yet. We're kind of getting that. I think more with Ahsoka season 2, we'll get more of that stuff. But as far as a student is concerned, like I don't know anybody who has had so many opportunities to learn and has taken advantage of those opportunities to learn. And I think that that's really important, and that's kind of the crux of what makes her such a strong, worthwhile character. Is she has these opportunities to learn and she takes advantage of them, and she actually grows from them, and she's able to take different styles of teaching and take them and consolidate them and bring them together into her own form of doing things.
Yeah. I think those are both really good picks for mentor and mentee.
Yeah. Well, Kanan and Ezra, pretty much a good pick for everything. I mean,
yes.
It's about time for a Star Wars Rebels rewatch. I mean, really, like, if you want to look at mentorship in Star Wars, it is all over Star Wars Rebels.
Yes,
Like,
100%.
There's, like, obviously the movies are great, like, things like The Last Jedi, things like Empire Strikes Back, but really, even though I just said, Ahsoka is the greatest student and stuff like that, there is no better look at mentorship than Star Wars Rebels. You've got Kanan and Ezra. You've got Hera and Sabine. You've got Hera and Ezra. You've got Hondo and Ezra. Ezra's doing a lot of learning. Maybe I need to change my answer to that. But like, it's such a good look at that. And I think, that they talk a lot about how, writers tell the stories of their own lives because it's what you know. Well, I mean, you look at Dave Filoni, and Dave Filoni learned from George Lucas, and that impacted him a lot, that mentor-mentee relationship, and it bleeds over to Star Wars Rebels. So all that to say, go watch Star Wars Rebels when you're done listening to this episode, guys, because it's perfect. Any kind of final thoughts, statements, or ideas on mentorship that we didn't cover?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's a bit as with all of these guys, they're big topics, so we're not covering everything. The book is not going to cover everything. All of this kind of goes together with your own experiences, with other things that you've read, mentorship relationships you've had in your own right. All of those things are meant to come together to just get you thinking about these ideas and how you can apply them to your life, because we're trying to apply them to our lives. I can speak for both Davor and myself in saying we both try to be mentors and mentees in everything that we do. So we're coming to you with this and just trying to open a conversation about the topic. So if you want to share your thoughts on that, always reach out to us. We've got our email, clashingsabersnetwork@gmail.com. You have all of our social medias, whether that's Threads or TikTok, Instagram, our Facebook group. All of that is Clashing Sabers. The Facebook group is Star Wars Clashing Sabers. Reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Let us know about the mentor-mentee relationships that have impacted you. Let us know about which ones you think are the best ones in Star Wars and why Davor is right or I'm wrong or whatever. Davor, if people want to reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing, where can they do that?
All right. So if you want to follow me on social media, I'm over on Blue Sky at Demondum. I'm also a co-host over on Space Swifties, a Star Wars and Taylor Swift podcast that I host with my wife, the one and only Meg Dowell.
And if you go over to Meg's, you'll of course see all that she's doing there with her book stuff. And so support that. And if you are into Star Wars books and you're into mentorship and stuff, and you want to spread the story of Star Wars, don't forget about our nonprofit branch, which works to put Star Wars books into classrooms across the country. You can go over to our Patreon to donate there, or reach out to us over on our website to nominate a teacher. We, of course, we've got a couple weeks until school starts back up. So we've got one box we're sending out already. I would love to be able to send out some more boxes to help teachers start out the year the proper way with some great stories that can inspire their students. So thank you guys for doing that. We don't pick, we wait for you guys. So be the one, don't expect other people to do it. Be the one. It costs you nothing other than about 30 minutes to go over there and nominate them. And the reason for nomination, you don't even have to explain. Just say, because Brandon said so. Like, literally, that's all I need you to put, Davor's the good looking one. I don't care what you put. We're sending the teachers books. All right. So thank you guys in advance for doing that. And we appreciate all of your efforts that allow us to just be the conduits of the Force in that way. So Davor, I think we do have to backtrack a little bit because we forgot something. We forgot to talk about really this mentor-mentee relationship that really just slaps, if you'll take what I mean, and that's batch 8.
Hi ho.
Oh, 3 people got that. Yeah, 3 people got that, and it's okay. And it's the 3 people are you, me, and Drew.